working. Hey guys, my name is Delia Laura and nice to meet you and welcome in my studio. Yay! This is just gonna be an honest painting tutorial and prepare for that. I'm gonna share with you guys my favorite tips and tricks, how to make sketches, concept, a little bit of color theory, a little bit about perspective, and lastly but not least, how to enjoy our artworks, because everybody can paint but not everybody can be an artist. Okay, so let's start with our first step, concept and sketches. For the sketch that you are going to see in 1 second, I've been using the paper transfer, and secondly, my reference photo that I download actually from Pinterest. And after you place the photo, please start to copy every detail possible, even the highlights and the shadows. Second step. Second, materials and your palette. It's such an important thing. Imagine you are a makeup artist and you are having the best technique in the world, but you are using like that shitty wacky foundation. So let's talk about materials. These are the colors that I've been using for the past 6 months. And I know that you fell in love with me, but let's start this tutorial and I'm gonna see you in a bit. Bye.
Hello again, you guys, and as I previously mentioned, I use the Michael Harding colors and the same paint medium from the same brand. So let's start. I break down the canvas mentally and treat each section like a puzzle. So when I start a portrait in oils, I always begin with the eye. For me, it's the most important part of the face. It's really bringing the whole painting to life. I like to treat it as the central focus point, and from there everything else starts to take shape. You're gonna see. Now, a little tip. If you are right-handed like I am, it's a good idea to start with the eye on the left side of the face, so you don't accidentally smudge your work as you go. It sounds simple, but it really helps keeping things clean, especially when you are working with oil paint, which stays wet for a while. So basically, paint the opposite eye from your hand position, if that makes any sense. So, when I begin painting the eye, I always start with the darkest colors first. I block in the shadows and deeper values to build a solid foundation. I don't go straight into highlights or use any white at all in this stage. I found that adding white way too early can mix with the darker tones and create a muddy, like a grayish texture, which I definitely want to avoid. So for now, I stick to the darks even in the iris and pupil. I place those rich, deep colors where they belong, and only once everything is dry or set do I go back in with the lighter tones and the highlights. That way I can keep the brightness crisp and clean exactly where it needs to be. I'm constantly checking again the reference photo, making sure I'm placing the values in the right spots. This step-by-step approach might seem slow, but it really helps keeping up the painting clean and accurate, and it gives you full control over the final result. Whenever I start painting the lips, I get a bit nervous, because my biggest challenge has always been painting teeth. Every artist has their weak point, and for me it's definitely drawing or painting teeth in a natural way. That's why I usually choose to paint the lips closed. It simplifies the expression and keeps the focus on other features. One helpful trick I use is to add a subtle dark line between the upper and lower lips. This adds depth and helps define their position more realistically, making the mouth look more relaxed and natural. And it also enhances the shadow, which gives the lips better structure on the face. Once the lips are done, I move on to coloring the skin, and I like to take the same red I used for the lips and apply it to the cheeks. I tend to exaggerate the blush a bit, of course, to create that soft, almost sacred look, something inspired by classical religious art, like the depiction of the Virgin Mary, for example. So I really enjoy using a lot of color and warmth in the cheeks to bring emotion and personality into my characters. At this point, I start to going back in the highlights to refresh and adjust them. The paint has settled a bit and begun to stick to the canvas, but it's still wet enough for me to work with it. That's the perfect moment to refine the light areas without overblending or losing the structure. Now, I use the same approach when I move up to the forehead. One thing I always keep in mind is not to forget the deeper shadow that naturally forms there, especially where the bone structure and lightning create contrast. And also, guys, don't forget about the material that is going to create a shadow on your face. But instead of using just a neutral shadow color, I mix in a touch of the same reddish pinkish color that I use on the cheeks and lips. And this keeps the tones consistent and helps avoid a flat or artificial look. Skin is complex, right? It reflects and absorbs so many colors. So if you're interested in color theory and how to choose tones for a realistic skin, I would actually love to make a dedicated video on that topic. For now, I keep the shadows warm with reds, and for the highlights, I introduce a hint, like a little tiny bit of blue. Since the background in this portrait will be blue and black, I want to reflect some of those colors back into the skin. Yeah, it's a subtle way to unify the whole composition and make the face feel more integrated with the environment. And one final tip before we wrap up, I'm using at this point a 1-point perspective in this composition, which helps guide the viewer's eyes directly towards the subject. Yeah, so keep in mind 1-point perspective. To enhance that effect even more, the background will be completely black. This strong contrast ensures that all the focus stays on the face. Yeah, emphasizing its features and expression without any distractions. Okay, I think the explanation I've shared so far are enough to give you a solid understanding of my approach. Now I'm adding the final details for the face. And I would like to invite you to take a moment to really absorb the painting process. Watch how I move the brush, how I apply the paint, and the care I take in building each layer. Let this part of the video be a time for you to reflect on what you've learned and how you might apply it to your own work. As the painting continues, I will step back and let the visuals speak for themselves. So, I suggest you to sit back, relax, and enjoy the rest of the process.
watch, you have my social media down here in the description. Please send me your results. I would be so pleased to see that somebody is actually watching my tutorials, and it means the world to me, and I would love to give you actually some personal tips and tricks. Why not? So yes guys, I hope you enjoyed as much as I did. See you next time and stay creative. Bye.